Okay, hi. I'm Kjetil Edland, and I made this Larp, Just Let Lovin', together with Hanne Grasmo. It is a game, a Larp, for between 60 and 70 participants. So far we have run it 4 times in the Nordic countries, and right now it is being run in France. They started playing it yesterday, so exciting to hear how that went. It's been translated into French and being played in French. And next year it will be held in the United States, in Minnesota. And there are also initiatives for future runs in Finland and Denmark that we hope will be realized. Just Let Lovin' tells the story of a group of friends in New York as the AIDS epidemic hits the world in the early 80s. More than half of the characters in the Larp are gay or bisexual men. The Larp follows the characters over a period of 3 years. The first act begins with the 4th of July party in 1982. Mr. T, a wealthy man, has invited a lot of friends from the gay scene to a party in upstate New York. At the same place, a group of young cancer survivors, many of whom are passionate about alternative spirituality and free love, are also there to party. The theme of the first act is desire. The characters party, enjoy a drag show, and hooks up with other characters using the workshopped sex mechanic. And the acts last until the next morning. The characters are finishing their breakfast and staying in the morning after the party feeling. Joy and awkwardness blend together. The Larp then switches to a scripted scene called The Lottery of Death. In this scene, we move away from the realistic play style of the 4th of July party to a symbolic scene where it's decided through a lottery which of the characters will die of AIDS in the coming year. The players can only decide the odds of their characters dying or surviving. The final result is random. The act ends with the funeral of the characters who have died. After the end of the act, the players workshop what happened in the lives of the characters and their relationship with each other in the following year. When the second act begins, it is the 4th of July 1983, 1 year later. The party begins, and some things done for the first time in the first act now becomes tradition. For instance, during the evening, there will be a drag show, just like the year before. And traditions are changed, reflecting that death is now very present in the lives of this group of friends. During the midnight celebration, paper balloons are released in the memory of the dead, for instance. The tone of the Larp also changes. While the theme of the first act was desire, in the second act the theme is fear of death. The second act ends in the same way as the first one, with another lottery of death after breakfast, and funeral for the characters who die. Yet again, the players will workshop what happened in the lives of the characters and with their relationship. Another year passes, and when the third and last act begins, it's 1984 and time for another 4th of July party. The theme for this act is friendship. This steers the Larp toward bringing characters together and creating a feeling of community, at the same time as the death toll of the AIDS epidemic has no end in sight. The Larp ends with a last lottery of death and a funeral. The repetition of elements in the 4th of July party, as well as going through 3 lotteries of death and 3 funerals, creates a particular effect for the participants. Repetition as a design tool can be used to create the effect of feeling the world coming alive and having death. Also, following the characters through several years in their lives give the players the opportunity to explore how the life of the character and their relationship change in ways not possible to plan by the player when they start their journey into the Larp. So what can this Larp achieve? One goal we had was giving participants the opportunity to learn about that not too long ago in our countries. There was an epidemic that for parts of the population had a death toll that has been described as living through a war. Also, some participants have become more interested and engaged in LGBT issues and AIDS activism today. It's also a particular thing that it's one of the few games where if you enter the game as a queer player, the story does not put your identity in a minority position. It also gives the players the chance to reflect on the central themes of the LARP in their own lives. What are my sexual desires? What does it mean for how I live my life, that like everyone else I am mortal and one day will die? And what significance does friendship and community have in my life? And what could it have that it doesn't have today? And here, you had a lecture on the openness fader yesterday. This was a quite transparent LARP. All the characters and the relationship between the characters that had been written by the game masters were available for all the participants to read if they so wanted to. It's a lot of material. Most didn't read everything, and there was no demand to, but you could if you were curious about one particular other character, for instance. But the specifics of what happened in the Lottery of Death was kept secret to the participants. They are told exactly what I have told you now, but there are specifics on how this is played out that is not revealed for dramatic effect, that it's better to, we feel, to experience it without knowing all the very details of what is going to happen. But quite high on the openness fader. And this is runtime direction fader. It's something that you will hear about later this week. Quickly explained, it's how actively the game master will direct the players in the story. The structure of the LARP itself is quite heavily structured. There will be 3/4 of July parties. Many of the elements in the party have been decided by the game master, as well as the Lottery of Death and the funerals. But you as a player have a lot of freedom to find out which journey your character will take through this game. The game master doesn't come in and interrupt your play as you play. There is a black box on site. We see a picture from there. A player who played 3 different versions of that character's death, a lonely one and one surrounded by friends. And here game masters can help out, but it's the player who initiate if they want to play those type of scenes in or out of the black box. And then there's one thing that is not directed either by the game master or the players, as I mentioned, the outcome of the Lottery of Death. When you start the game, neither you as a player nor the game master will know whether your character will live through the entire game or will die in the first or the second or the third act. Yes, and there is a webpage, justlittleloven.com. It's a little bit hard to read with the blue but yeah, name of the LARP and .com, justlittleloven.com, and there's more information there. Thank you.